Okay, everybody, welcome to An Evening with Podcamp. I'm Norman Huelsman, and we want to welcome you to our second evening with Podcamp. We're very excited. Thank you, those of you who made it this evening on this cold January. We're here at the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, and what's that? Well, for those at home, we're here at the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, and we have a small crowd, but it's an intimate crowd, so we're happy for that. Our next evening with Podcamp is scheduled for March 10th, so that's the second Thursday in March, and keep an eye on Twitter and Podcamp website for more details about that event, where we'll have it, and who will be our guest. I will be no longer with the Art Institute at that time, so chances are that it will be at the Art Institute of Pittsburgh are slim to none. So, without further ado, I want to get to our guest this evening, and I'm excited to have Kellee on because I know that she's doing a lot online and a lot of really interesting endeavors, not only for her projects, but how she's promoting them. And she's not been a part of Podcamp Pittsburgh recently, and so I thought she would be a good person to bring on and talk to her about what she's doing and how she's doing it. So I want to introduce her, and I want to read something that I found online about her from the website Pigeons and Planes. And this might give you kind of a fun introduction. And so the author writes, I still have no idea what to think about Kellee Maize. She's a pretty blonde rapper from Pittsburgh. She has a tendency to go in over Baltimore club influence beats. She has a weird alter ego, speaks about spirituality and strange energies that only exist inside yoga classes and drum circles, and she has an army of cult-like followers that swarm like vultures around carcasses whenever Kellee's name is mentioned. Kellee, welcome to An Evening with Podcamp.
Thanks. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
So, I'm going to talk more about that blog post. I think maybe you'll be familiar, but we're gonna get to that. But so, you know, you on your website, you said you moved to Pittsburgh in your teens, and you had dreams of making an impact on the world. Well, you know, I think that you're on your way to, you're on that path to do that.
Thanks.
And before we get to what you're doing right now, maybe can you give us a little bit of background, you know, where you're from and how you got to Pittsburgh?
Yeah. Can I look at you all, or do I need to be like facing the
No,
mic?
you're okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I am originally from central Pennsylvania, about an hour north of Harrisburg, in a very small town called, I actually am from New Berlin, which no one's ever heard of, but it's very close to Bucknell University. I went to Mifflinburg High School, and it's about an hour east of Penn State. It's pretty much the center of Pennsylvania. And my boyfriend in high school, his family was from Pittsburgh. And so, and I grew up like wearing a Pirates outfit. Like my family was all into Pittsburgh, but I had never been here. And my boyfriend's family was here, and so I visited, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 times. And I just remember driving on 376 coming into the city, like from Monroeville, and just sort of seeing the city and just being like, I love that. That's where I want to be. There's people there. You know, and I just sort of fell in love with Pittsburgh. It was like a magnet. And when I decided, that I was going to go to school and where was I going to go, I think I only applied to Pitt and got accepted in my junior year, and then came here in 2002. And I've been here ever since. That's 12 years. No. I graduated in 2002. I came here in 98, so I've been here for 12 years. I graduated college in 2002. And yeah, I started a company, and I'm like here to stay, more or less.
What did you study while you were at the University of Pittsburgh?
I studied communication. Well, I started school as a theater major, but Pitt was, it's a very big school to be in the theater department. And all of the plays that were chosen my freshman year were like one-person plays. I was just like, I'm never going to get any experience. And I just kind of decided that wasn't a smart move, and so I switched to communication. And I still had a lot of theater classes. That was my minor. And I also studied African dance. And I was on the radio, and kind of got into broadcast journalism until I learned about the media, and then I sort of changed my mind about that too. So.
Well, it's interesting. So it's a good segue into when I first met you, when we were doing Podcamp Pittsburgh 1, you were working for the City Paper, and you were doing Sound Kitchen at the time. So how do you go from being in college to doing Sound Kitchen?
Well, I was always into music. I was always making music. I was always a lover of music. And when I graduated, I was a bartending babysitter for about, 6 months. And I was making music at the time, trying to record. And I heard about the job at the City Paper. And it was like a job that was kind of perfect for me. It was just a promotions coordinator. It was going out, representing the paper, talking to people, promoting things that the paper was into. And I love alternative media in general. So it was a good fit. And while I was there, I was really given a lot of leeway to kind of be creative. And they wanted to do a music series. They have a film series called Film Kitchen that they've had for a long time. And it was just sort of a natural thing that I was like, I want to do it. I want to make it happen every month. So every month, I was choosing a band, a DJ, a singer-songwriter, and a poet and an MC to perform together. So it was really cool. And it's how I kind of learned Pittsburgh and how I, became familiar with the music scene and all that. And then it turned into, after we did it for 2 years, and I, worked with so many bands and so many DJs, and I was just in awe of all these amazing musicians. I'm like, they all have to be in the same place at once now, in one big event. So
right, yeah, I remember I went to a few of those events, and it was an interesting eclectic mix, and you always had really unique locations. It was always moving around, and so it was because I was kind of, I was just graduated from college, so I was still like in that mindset of going out and seeing bands all the time. So that was definitely cool. So then maybe let's bring you back to Podcamp for a second, because so I met you during the first Podcamp, and so how did Justin approach you, and so what was your involvement there?
Well, Justin and I became, I can't really remember how I met him, but I know that it was more or less through Something to Be Desired. Like I had heard about Something to Be Desired, and
you were on the show, I think, a couple times. Yeah,
and it was kind of one of those things where I heard about it, I saw it, I still had that actress in me, and I was like, hey, if you ever need somebody, give me a call. I want to be on the show. And so he ended up, adding me to the cast. I didn't do too many shows. I was so incredibly, at that time in my life, I was literally like juggling 50, not that I'm not now necessarily, but I was way busier in terms of having free time to do things that I really wanted to do. So I didn't get to do as many as I wanted. And then Podcamp came along, and he involved City Paper. We helped get some money from
and you were helped get a sponsor, I think, Scion. Yeah, okay, so that's right.
Yeah.
But well, cool. So then you go from being this way too busy person trying to do all these extra things to starting your own company. So so Nocturnal is the name of it, and so it's interesting because it's an all-female company, and your goal is to just kind of support women and do your promotion communication stuff. How's that gone for you?
It's awesome. The company it was started on one hand. I was really I still am very involved in the spiritual community in Pittsburgh, and I had learned a lot about the idea that, when women start coming together and working together and gathering together, that the world will heal. There's all sorts of prophecies that say this, and I was just always very intrigued by that idea. And also intrigued by the fact that there were so many girls that would always be like, I hate girls. I don't make friends with girls easily. These sorts of things. I've always been a girl that tries to get other girls to like each other. Like that was always what was fun for me, and I had a group of friends throughout my entire life that you would not necessarily think that they would be two girls that would become friends. That was always like my goal. So it just became sort of a natural, like, hey, let's have an all-female company. And there was not a lot of competition, so to speak, for the type of work we do, but there were a lot of people doing it, but not necessarily together. Sure. So I just started kind of networking with other women, and now I'm not quite such. It was kind of a feminist mentality, I guess. It's not like we're anti-men or anything. Like
right.
People
well, I know that
get the wrong
Chachi told me earlier
but
he was intimidated by your all-girl company. He thought you might come in here and push him around or something.
No, we actually have boys that work for us now. Day Street team.
They're boys.
Men. Sorry, I say girls and boys. I'm sorry. I don't mean any disrespect by that. But so it was that coupled with like I said, a lot of my close friends were promoting, and I was meeting people constantly and networking. And at the paper, I was somewhat limited to what I could do because it had to be, there had to be some advertising element, like someone that, if an event was happening, it had to be promoted in the paper. So, I couldn't always do everything I wanted to do, and I was always very interested in doing what I wanted to do.
Right.
So I started that on the side, and I was just literally working around the clock, doing a lot of extra extra hours to sort of build the business, but still be at the paper. And I still have a great relationship with the paper. They were well aware of it, and they actually really helped me in a lot of ways, in terms of making that transition from going, working full time to being on my own.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So I kind of want to, let's shift into talking about your music career. So you said earlier that, and I know your music and Nocturnal kind of go hand in hand, which is kind of cool, which is one of the reasons we want to talk to you about tonight. But, so you are doing music from the time you were age 9. You talk about Thunder and Lightning, your first group, which I thought was kind of funny. So you and your friend, you're 9-year-olds, you're rapping in the cassette recorder, and you want to be Thunder and Lightning. What's that about?
Well, Salt and Pepper was very big at that time, and I was a huge fan. And I was always going. I was a gymnast, and I went to gymnastics camp, and I met girls from other parts of the country, and I was exposed to even more hip hop, because where I live, it's not necessarily like the primary thing that people listen to. And I love to dance, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. And so we came together and created this epic song. We pretty much only had one song. Most of the time it was like sort of this joke, like I joke now, is like one of the things I remember about it was sort of arguing over who was Thunder and who was Lightning. It was like who's Salt and who's Pepper, and we didn't have a Spinderella, so it's like kind of a bummer, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and we took pictures of each other going like that, and then we put it on a cassette.
All fucked out in the middle of Pennsylvania.
Recorded it on the 2 buttons you have to push on the cassette recorder, and we recorded the song, and then we gave it to our families and performed it for them.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's where I got my start.
Flash forward to 2011 to 2010, and you're on your own. You broke away from Thunder and Lightning, and you're on your own. Right? So, and you have a line Archetype, which is not your first album. I think your second. Yeah. So, what's most interesting, people probably talk the most about this, is you have 5, it's called Aligned Archetypes because there's 5 different personalities. You have your archetypes, you call them, but you have these 5 different personas that you embody and you kind of take on throughout this album. And when I first listened to it, I had downloaded it, and I didn't realize that it was broken up into chunks, and it sounds like a cohesive album all the way through, just different themes throughout. But for someone who's been on your website and goes through and sees this as prominent front and center, so maybe you can talk about what are your 5 archetypes, and how does that relate to you and your music and your philosophy?
Well, so it kind of this is so funny because I just had an interview yesterday with a blogger that asked the same question. It's kind of a long answer, but it came out of a discussion. I was dating someone. My boyfriend a couple years ago was it was kind of a joke that I want to be a superhero. I've always kind of had this save the world mentality. And so I don't remember if he named me or if I named myself Miss Apocalypse, and I sort of felt it was a bit negative, but, we were sort of looking at it like apocalypse is massive change, so it was Miss Apocalypse because I want massive change on the planet. And he had created a comic strip with a friend as a Christmas present or something and gave it to me. And I showed it to another friend, and she was like, you should do a photo shoot with, that particular, or not a photo shoot, you should create a persona. And then I was taking pictures with my girl, Laura Petrilla, who's done all of my photography for my site and album and stuff. And we were just doing a normal photo shoot. And somehow we got to the point of, maybe you kind of look like a superhero. And I was like, oh, I have a superhero personality. Maybe we could, and then we started talking to my friend who designs, Vanessa German. And, I said, will you create a Miss Apocalypse, create the dress and do my hair and I'll and you do my makeup and everything and make me look like a superhero, and we'll take pictures. And, everybody sort of was like, okay, yeah. And then as that process was unfolding, I started to just like think about how there's like many different sides of me, and how, you know, as humans, we all kind of have different sides of our, you know, it's like you talk to your mom, you're sort of one way. You talk to your best friend, you're sort of another way. You're at your job, you're kind of another way. And it's sort of a disconnect sometimes, and we're, you know, disjointed almost in a way, you could say. But I started to recognize all these things, and I'm very like you know, like I'm all about kind of understanding, why am I this way? What am I doing? What does it mean? Why is the world this, you know, all these seeking questions. And so that process kind of, you know, made me think of these 5. And there's actually many archetypes that didn't make the cut, including like Smelly Kellee, because sometimes I don't shower for many days, or you know, Nightcap Kellee, because when I do decide to drink, sometimes I overdo it. You know, there's like many. So I had to narrow them down and really be serious about it, because I was like, well, this would be kind of a cool, you know, I just saw a vision if you went to my website that you could sort of pick one, and the idea being that, you know, any person might, for whatever reason, be drawn to one or find some kind of similarity between them and me as that person, you know, or as that archetype. And then maybe realize that the idea is that it's all me, and that we all have these different sides, and we're all, you know, made this way, if you will.
Right.
So, yeah, so it was just like a fun, and it just kept going. Then it just sort of built and built, and, you know, it became kind of like when I was doing my album, I love tarot. I love to read tarot cards and get my cards read and stuff. And I sort of was like playing around with the order, and I was having a very, very, very hard time deciding the order that my album would be in. And I kind of was like, well, let's just say that each song really is kind of represented by one of these archetypes in a way. And I could like point to it as if it was already part of the plan or something. And so I just pretended like the album was a tarot spread, and they each meant a different sort of thing. You know, the past, the present, the future type thing.
Right. And so your archetypes are the 5 are, you have business, Yinzer, your superhero, and you have the mystical, like and then there's the 5th one, which is, I don't have it here.
It's like the nerd kind of, I think, I don't know if you mentioned
working.
that.
Oh yeah, the working.
So, so yeah, they're Melly K's. That's sort of like I'm real into like conspiracy theory, and like I kind of get nerded out sometimes, and just get really like into a certain subject or whatever it may be, and almost get obsessed with a given conspiracy theory. And so that was that particular side.
So do you feel like you relate personally to any one of these more than the other, or if you had to put an order to them, or is that a little?
Well, I mean, this whole concept is pretty old in a way. Like, it's almost like 2 years. And I mean, I feel my next album is tentatively titled Integration, in that I am integrating all of my archetypes, so to speak. And
it's like an evolution almost.
Yeah. Exactly. I think that I would say that the winning archetype would be the fairy, because I am really... as I'm becoming more in touch with my artistic, you know, drive and all that kind of stuff, and really becoming very serious about my spirituality in a way that I wasn't before. Like I always, you know, was interested and read cards and was into astrology and was into all these different things. But like now I'm really recognizing that it's incredibly important to everything in every moment of my life. And so, that's who I would say I probably relate to the most.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Well, you know, you have a lot of great accomplishments with this album. Let me read a couple of them. You know, most downloaded artist on Amazon.com. You were the #1 Google search result for the term female rapper. You've had over 1 million views on YouTube for your music videos, which is, I think, you know, the highlight, and the list goes on, but, you know, that's, I think, the highlights from my perspective, and that's pretty great. I mean, that's really cool. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a second, but you've said your next album is going to be out in February. Is that, are you still on track with that?
That's the plan. I go back and forth between like really creating my reality and picking a date, and then not having an attachment. I'm sort of like not sure, because I want to pick a date. I want to say February, but like I'm not 100% sure that's definitely going to happen.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the album is written. Some of it is recorded. And I know that, you know, if I was able to sit in a studio for 2 weeks, I could complete it. It's just that with my business, it's sort of not totally possible at this exact time. And I feel like there's maybe a song or two that's just hasn't come
work,
out yet.
Well, I want to ask you about your process in a little bit, but one other thing that I want to talk about that we'll kind of shift into the next segment is, you currently have this album available for free, and you have pictures of yourself in all of your different archetypes, in a very interesting sort of a way, and that's all for free. So if people want to check those out, they can. And you're using this hook in music to build your audience, it seems. And so how can you talk about your kind of why are you just letting the music go for free? You could put it on iTunes and at least make $1 a song, right?
It's definitely intentional. It was an intentional choice, and it was really the choice was. I look at it. I see my business side and my artist sometimes still separate, and I very much, from a artistic perspective, I love that I'm giving it away for free, because I'm really making music. I've really chosen to do this and be serious about it because I believe that it's my purpose, and there's something bigger, and that it's sort of important to get the message out there, because as a human, I've totally transformed in a lot of ways, and I think that the things that I've used to help transform myself are something that I would love to be able to share with other people, and that I got from other people, from other music, from other books, from documentaries, from all these things. So I just like the idea of being like a conduit for various messages, let's say. And from a business perspective, people, I think by and large, if you can't listen to it, if you can't sample it, if you can't, put it in your car and really have it, you don't necessarily aren't going to just like it out of nowhere. You have to have exposure to it, whether it's a friend, whether it's because you always like this type of music, whatever it is. So we figure if we give it away for free, there's a good chance that people will at least give it a chance. And if somebody gives it a chance, hopefully whoever likes it will then potentially in the future purchase music from me when I do decide to actually sell it.
That comes time, I love that you're giving it away for free. It's this artist in you that's like, no, screw commercialism.
Just give it all
exactly away. Right. There's such a beauty in that, and so how does that tie back into what you're doing with Nocturnal?
Well, so I still definitely am kind of juggling the two sides. I'm very diligently working on my business. But my business really exists. We're an agency, we're a marketing agency. And, we have several amazing clients, lots of amazing clients, and I'm transitioning to be more of a consultant, if you will, on projects, as opposed to like really doing all the work and being involved in every aspect of our business, so that I can focus on music. And it was always my intention, I sort of always knew that I was going to eventually focus on music, and I believe that a new way to do business is really to focus on the people who are in the business, kind of creating their own dreams, whatever they may be. And so that's what the businesses exist for in my mind, is that the two people that work with me will be able to follow their dreams and do what they want to do, and both of them have a lot of interest in music. We started as initially our first, the reason that we came together was to support independent film artists, musicians, so on and so forth. So it's kind of natural that, because one of us is an artist, a musician, that we would, be a conduit for that as well. But there's no money in it yet, so it's not like it can be this full-time project that anybody else is working on. And I'm only able to do it slowly at a pretty slow pace, even though it doesn't seem like it's slow for me. Like I feel like I should have had 3 albums out this year.
Right. Right. Well, I think that, you can point to your accomplishments with this album specifically and say, look at how much we've shared this, look at how many people have downloaded it, to watch the YouTube videos, and say, I can help you get there. I can do this for your business and figure out how to monetize that.
Yeah, no, it's very, it's definitely something that we're realizing as people are paying attention to what we're doing and how we're doing it, that we're getting more clients who are interested in the same type of work. Because really my music is supported primarily by my boyfriend, who is my business partner in music, is started College Parlor and owns a branding firm and does work with like Sephora and Giant, Dick's Sporting Goods, and all these huge companies. And the type of things that he does for them, he teaches us how to do it for me, and teaches me every day. And so, we're learning all of these ways that corporate America is functioning and applying it to, DIY artist mentality. Right. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like we're offering that same exact service to any other clients that want to work with us. So it works out, And my business partner is really very interested in booking artists and doing, having a booking agency potentially one day. And my other business partner wants to, do public relations and, is a total techie. And so it's just all makes sense. It all works together, and, it's not like there's a separation so much.
That's great. No, that's exciting. Yeah. And I know it's great to work with good people who all have can share a vision and be on board and just make it work. So, so that kind of brings us into social media a little bit. And, obviously you're using these modern web tools to, extend your voice and get noticed. What are you, maybe you can describe what social media tools you're using and how you're using them, because there's so many out there, and it's easy to get lost in just the sea of new media tools. And obviously what you're doing is working, and it's effective.
Yeah. I mean, I have accounts set up on all sorts of different things, but I mean, my focus pretty much by and large is YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. And then Amazon to distribute the music for free on a massive scale. So that's pretty much where all the energy goes in terms of my day-to-day,
Okay. So you're not recording every day, but when you're not recording, are you like, what would be like a week for you in terms of like promoting this?
Well, one of the biggest things that we've recognized, and through some of our work with other clients and whatnot, blogs are the authority now. People are reading blogs to find out about their music. They're not really reading much else, from what I gather. And so we have spent an incredible amount of time contacting blogs, not just music blogs, but alternative. Like I just got interviewed by Witches and Pagans magazine, and just all sorts of crazy things that in some way, shape, or form might relate to my business. Like I was interviewed by a female entrepreneur how-to business guide sort of blog. So we're just kind of realizing that every link that we can get on a blog is more juice coming back to my website and the ability to come up high on search engines and whatnot.
Right.
So, so that's a lot of the time. But I mean, so really right now, I'm still really working. I'm still doing a lot with Nocturnal, but, in terms of the music, it's paying attention to my social media as often, minute by minute as I can. And my goal is to respond to every fan, which is very difficult, but I'm attempting to do it. So if somebody comments on something I say, I try to respond to them. If they tweet me, or if they send me a message, or if they send me an email, I try to respond to them. Yeah. Because it's not like, to me, it's sort of, if someone is supporting me, they're supporting the message, they're supporting movement, they're supporting evolution, so it's like, it's bigger than just some person that'll eventually give me money, and people just write me like some of the most, it's really what keeps me going, is those interactions, because people just tell me, that they're being positively affected by my music, and that's like amazing for me.
Sure. No, that's cool. That's great. So it sounds like what you're doing, in addition to producing your own content, is you're helping other people create content about you, which is a good way to do that. And not only does it create the links, but it puts more information out there.
Right. Constant content creation. That's like our, I haven't been able to make as much music as I would like, and that's going to change very soon. But videos have been huge for me, and we've been working with local filmmakers who are incredibly talented and hungry as I am, and really, hook me up because they see the vision and they know that they're going to get this exposure right along with me. So that's been really big for us too.
Great. Cool. Justin Kanaki suggested that I asked you about when you started your Twitter account. Yeah. Is that an interesting story?
Well, it's just funny because it was like a long time ago that we sat down. We were at
2006.
Yeah,
so long.
Yeah. No, but I mean a long time ago in my mind.
Oh, in internet years, that's so long too. Like.
Exactly, and there was like no actual like I did nothing with my Twitter at that. Like he told me all these amazing things about why Twitter was so great and what it meant and what it would be, and I was just kind of like, that's cool. But I don't know. It was like at first, I just thought it was weird. Like I was just kind of like, I don't really want to, I would like watch it and people are like going to the bathroom or, it's like, why do I need to know what this person is doing minute by minute? But then it kind of like, I got the I don't know, energy from it. Like I started to understand why people like it and how it's a great way to connect. And, once I started nurturing it and having the interactions, I started realizing why people get addicted to it and why they love it and why they're into it. Mm-hmm. And as an artist, once my music's out there, it's a great, as soon as something comes out, I can immediately put it on there and, have a dialogue going, which is,
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty similar story. I know my one roommate, he got on Twitter a while ago, but he couldn't get into it, and mm-hmm. now he got an Android or something, and mm-hmm. he's like, oh, now I get it, because mm-hmm. I can always have it, and mm-hmm, I can mm-hmm. show this photo. So I thought there was going to be a better story, like you were walking his dog, and like a truck drove by and splashed
it was just funny because, I mean, it's funny between me and him because it was just sort of like, I think I really, in the conversation, was like, I'm going to do it, yeah. Like, I was like, like, I'm doing it right now, Like, you're really teaching someone who's going to use this knowledge you're giving them, and then I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So, that was kind of why it was funny, but I finally took his advice 4 years later.
Right, there you go. Well, it's funny. I think I was following. He was the first person that I followed on Twitter too. So, but yeah, back in 2006. So maybe we could talk a little bit about when you create. So, I don't know if this is a hurdle for you, or you have a very specific process, and whether it's creating music or a photo shoot or a video or something. But when you sit down, you're like, okay, I want to create something. Mm-hmm. What's your process? What do you go through?
Until recently, and the plan is that I really will be doing that regularly. Like I'm going to sit down, I'm going to finish the album. It didn't really, for the last 8 years of making music, it was never really like that. It was never like I sat down and sort of, okay, I intend at this moment to make a song. It was always like, I'd start listening, I'd listen to the beats that I was given over and over again, and just suddenly I'd be maybe playing it in my car, or I'd be at my house or something like that, and I would just get inspired to write. So it was, and it's very disjointed. I mean, sometimes I'll write 5 songs in a row and then I won't write for months. But I know that, in terms of my practice and my craft, I'm committed to writing on a very regular basis, and I do now, and I have for the last 2 years, written pretty frequently, I feel. And so I've been able to create more songs, but I feel as though it's like, I'm inspired, okay, I'm going to do it, mm-hmm. And I sit down and I listen to the music that I might have been given, or if there's maybe a particular, like I saw a documentary that really inspired me, I'll actually turn the documentary on and write while I'm, or I'll refer to, like, I've gone to movie nights where I would see something and I would write tons and tons of notes about the documentary that I saw, and then I would go and write the song. So, I mean, it's very different every time, but, I don't know if that really answers your question, but it's, I always feel like it's an inspiration.
Well, what about when you're not creating music, if you have to create a video or some other?
Well, I mean, my, Joey, my boyfriend, who's my partner in all this, is very creative himself, and especially for a lot of the video ideas, he'd be like, okay, why don't we do this? And then it would sort of morph from there. A lot of the videos have also, the directors are obviously very involved in making choices. On set, depending on the video, I'm very involved in the choices as well. But each one has been totally different. I can't say that, they're the same. It's like, I might meet someone randomly, or they were brought to me from a Craigslist post that we did looking for videographers. It just depends on the scenario. But mm-hmm. Generally, it's working with the filmmaker and working with me and my team, and and I'll get input from my girls at Nocturnal, and just from friends, and what do you think I should do for this kind of thing.
So you're drawing from everyone around you.
Yeah, I definitely get inspiration from others very much, and most of the time, like there's a lot of things that I've seen, like I've kind of had an idea for something, but it'll go in a completely different direction.
Sure.
You know, it's just
That's
just
how
sort
it
of
goes
like
sometimes,
whatever happens, I know that it's what it's supposed to be. Like I've sort of let go of my attachment to like, this is how I want it my way, you know.
Cool.
Let that go sometimes.
Well, I mean, it looks like you are having fun all the time, but we all know that, you know, work is work. So what are some struggles that you have to overcome, you know, as you do this job?
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm definitely not having fun. I mean, I try to have fun all the time. I try to create that I'm having fun all the time. I really work hard on intending that my thought patterns and the things that I talk about and that I'm positive at all times, and that has a huge impact and keeps me that way. But I became this way, I think, from being the exact opposite, which, you know, had definitely struggled with. I was diagnosed with various mental disorders growing up in different, mostly in my college years. And I was medicated for a short period of time. And I started to kind of really study mental illness and things that happen in relationship with that and kind of where they come from. And I really delved into me and who I am and what has happened in my life. And I kind of recognized that, I mean, not to say that, you know, the drugs are, you know, drugs for mental diseases or whatever are bad, or that people prescribe things wrong. But I pretty much just think that, you know, we have the ability within ourselves to heal from anything, and that that there are resources out there to transform your life yourself. And so that's more or less what I did. And so I still now struggle with, you know, fear and, you know, the normal human things that everybody has. And the biggest one being like a real fear of judgment. And that's been a pretty hard thing for me to overcome. And that's probably the biggest struggle because, you know, it's like I have this thing, you know, where I want everyone to love me. And so it's kind of hard to be an artist and have that mentality, you know, because you're an artist. Like, people are going to hate it, and some people are going to love it, and some people are going to think you're crazy, and some people are going to call you a cult leader. You know, it just depends. But through being sort of faced with that fear really directly and you know, knowing that there's comments and the dislike that might come to you is right there. And it's in your face. It's not like, you know, where it used to be like, I mean, I don't know. I think back in the day, so to speak, it wasn't as easy for artists to know what people negatively thought. So being faced with that has given me a lot of strength because, you know, I look at some things now, and I don't really read a lot of comments or stuff anymore. But there was a period where I did to kind of like beef myself up and like be prepared, you know, for what would the other side say, you know. And now it doesn't bother me as much. So, you know, it's still a struggle that I have, but I'm able to overcome it pretty easily, much easier than I ever would have expected. And it's pretty much the reason why I think that I'm making music kind of a little bit later than I would have chosen otherwise. I think that if I had it my way, I'd be like 21 doing what I'm doing right now. But, you know, I had to grow as a person and...
Right. Well, whatever your detractors might be saying, I mean, they can't argue with, you know, 1 million views on YouTube
and honestly, it's given, you know, because I'm you know, that particular trait in me also makes it like I don't really like I really have like this, like, I love everyone, like it's like real, like I genuinely feel compassion for even people that do terrible things, you know. Like the recent shootings and stuff, like I found myself really thinking about the guy, you know, and just like the incredible fear and pain and whatnot that he must have had to do the things that he did, you know. So it's a good thing in a way because it allows me to really have compassion for people who are just hating because they need to let hate come out, you know, whatever it may be.
Right.
So yeah, it's cool. I mean, I really do mostly try to just focus on the positive at this point, you know.
Well, that's what you can do when you get too much. You know, if you listen to every complaint that comes through,
you'll never get anywhere.
You know, focusing on the love, I wanted to mention one interesting fact that I asked you about, and that is you met Lady Gaga, and that was actually, and I'll tie this back to the beginning. That was the beginning of the blog post on Pigeons and Planes from 2010 in June or July. And so how can you, maybe, I know you told me this before, but maybe you could tell everybody that story, because it was a pretty cool story, actually. Yeah.
Well, I mean, basically, I was in New York for a bachelorette party with one of my friends, and we were at a restaurant, And I always sort of said that I would meet Lady Gaga. Like, I always just had this like feeling that I would. And my 4 friends were all sitting right here, and like I felt someone brush past me, and my friends like all like their jaws dropped, and they were like shaking immediately, and they were like, oh my god, that's Lady Gaga. And I'm like, where, you know? And she's like right there, like sitting at a table, you know, within like 10 feet or something. And I'm a fan. I think she's extraordinary. And I mean, you know, I have all sorts of different views about her, but you know, in general, I think she's extraordinary. And I was just like, whoa. And she was like half naked. It was really interesting. Like I was like, is she wearing clothes? It was really weird. But so, you know, all my girls were like, you need to go and talk to her, you know, and give her your music. And, you know, they're just like freaking out about, you know, I've got to go. And she was with Perez Hilton, you know, so, and they were like, you know, and Perez Hilton breaks artists and writes about people. And I didn't even know anything, I didn't really even know who he was. And, I mean, you know, but I'd never read anything that he wrote and didn't know anything about why he does what he does. And so they were like, you got to go talk to her. And so I immediately got up from the table and jumped in a cab, went back to our hotel and got a bunch of my CDs. And I came back in, and they were like, I think she's leaving. Like, she got up from the table and started, you know, exiting. And so I followed her out, and I was just like, hey, can I talk to you for a second? And she was like, sure. And well, first her bodyguards kind of tried to like bounce me out, you know, like it was like, and she like kind of looked around and she was like, yeah. She was like, hi. I'm like, hi. I'm like, I'm an artist. I'm a big fan. This is my CD. Can I give it to you? And she was like, yeah. And she's like, but I don't really have, I mean, again, she was like wearing no clothes and had no purse, you know, or anything. She was like, but can you give it to him? Cause I don't have anywhere to put it. And I was like, yeah. And I like, when I gave it to him, I'm like, you make sure she listens to this. And, so I gave it to him, and I was like, she asked me if I was signed, and I said, no, I'm independent. And I think I said like, I think I'll always be. And then she was like, where are you from? And I said, Pittsburgh. And, she's like, my mom's from West Virginia. I've been to Pittsburgh. I was like, cool. And then I said, can I take a picture with you? And she was like, my girl is about to arrive any minute. It's her surprise birthday party. If I'm standing here taking a picture with someone, she'll freak out. So I'm like, no problem. So I left, and I went back to our table. And then, you know, we finished dinner, we leave, and we're all walking out. And I hear, like, as I'm leaving, she's behind me, and so is Perez Hilton. And she was like, hey, Kellee, I'll take a picture with you. And I was like, oh, okay, Lady Gaga. So we just stopped, took a picture with her. So then Perez Hilton got in the picture, and my girl who was getting married got in the picture. And it was on my Facebook. And I don't know if I maybe tweeted that I talked to her, or that I had a conversation with Lady Gaga, or like something. But, you know, the blogger follows me, you know, has written many things about me in the past. And so he just sort of, you know, made the assumption that perhaps I was like, you know, really talking to her, and that, you know, maybe we were striking a deal or something, but that was not the case at all.
Well, it's still a fun story. And so I have the photo here. I don't know if people could want to take a look at it later.
Yeah.
But no, that was definitely a really fun story when you told me. It must have been over the summer.
Yeah.
After that happened. So, well, thanks for telling me that. And I just want to ask you, to wrap it up, you know, a few questions about new media. This is something I want to ask all my guests who are on An Evening with Podcamp, and that's, you know, what do you think about the future of new media? I mean, we've seen where it's been over the past 3 or 4 years, and where do you see new media going?
I think it'll be very mobile. I think it's sort of like sitting at a computer and doing Facebook and doing all these different things that you're doing. I think that's going to happen less and less and less, and I think it's going to be in cars and on our, you know, our phones are going to become crazier and crazier. I just got a 4G, you know, Droid, and it's like, I'm like, oh my god, this is so fast. Yeah. You know, so it's just going to get faster and become more, you know, connected to us. But yeah, I would say that's the future.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So then, if you had the power, what would be one thing you would change about the internet?
I would delete all the comments if people called me a cult leader. No, I'm just kidding. No, I would. What would I do? I mean, definitely make it faster. I mean, I feel like it's fast, but you know, it seems like I still have a lot of trouble on my phone with certain things. But I don't know. I mean, really, I there's so much, like, you know, when you want to find something hateful, it's like the internet's just got anything and everything, you know. It's like the whole human condition is like right there. And so I mean, if I could delete all the hate, that's what I would do. But you know, that's not happening.
You would just censor half of it. Yeah.
Not allowed, you know. But then it's like, then you're thwarting expression, and part of, you know, the process of getting rid of the hate is letting it out. So, you know, I mean, I don't think I would really change very much at all, to be honest with you. I mean, that, you know, if I really could do that and I could just change the whole world, that would maybe be on my list.
I'll have to interview you again in 5 years and see, you know, how your questions or your answers would be different to that. So
right.
So yeah. Well, I want to open it up if anybody else here has any questions or wants to ask Kellee anything.
For your recording, do you actually record in a studio, or is it more like a DIY setup, or?
So let me ask that question. So he's asking if you are recording and do you record in a studio, or is it a DIY situation?
Well, I did my first album at ID Labs in Lawrenceville. It's where Wiz actually still records, I think. And then I sort of, you know, as an artist, it took me a long time to get really used to performing and whatnot in front of other people. And so when I go into the booth to actually record something, it's like a big deal for me to like let the other person who's recording me hear it. And so when I finally got over that, I was sort of like addicted to my engineer, you know, and I just always wanted to record with him. And he stopped working at ID Labs, so he started sort of becoming a bit of a nomad engineer and worked with a lot of different producers or a lot of different studios. And so I did the same for my album, Aligned Archetype. I did some of it at your mom's house, and I did some of it I actually even recorded a little bit at Blackberry, although none of that ended up on the album. I recorded in my friend's attic, you know, all over the place, pretty much. I pretty much followed him. And then now I have a studio in my house. It's definitely like, you know, getting there. It's not necessarily like, I don't know if I'm at a point where I could record an album and it would sound high quality, but I think that it will. And I'm learning Pro Tools, which is great for me because, like I said, I like to be able to record it and become comfortable with the work before I let anybody else hear it. Although I'm getting much better with that because my house is full of people. So, like, there's always people around. So I've got to, you know, kind of get comfortable with just being creative and doing it right there in front of anyone. So I hope to be able to record this whole album at my house. That's the plan. So we'll see. But Huggy, my producer, DJ Huggy, will probably come and help me do most of it because I can record myself, but I don't really understand it fully well enough to actually have a finished piece. So, and then Huggy will probably mix the entire album, and then we'll take it. We have a really cool relationship with Tree Lady Studios to master the final product. Right. So
cool.
Yeah.
You had mentioned as part of your creative process, you will drive around listening to beats or tracks that you've been given. Mm-hmm. Is this stuff you've gotten from your producer, or just random stuff you've downloaded from the internet? Where do you source that material?
Well, initially, when I first started making music, through my work at Sound Kitchen and all these different things, I was always meeting producers and local people that were my friends and that also made music. And so early on, I was getting music from them, their beats that they made that I would put on a track, and I would just have, 20 different beats from 20 different people sometimes, and listen to them over and over again until something sort of came. For the last album, I kind of whittled it down. There isn't quite as many producers on it, and I had met some producers from Baltimore at an event that my company sponsored. And so I got really into Baltimore Club, and I felt like it was like mine, it was like perfect music for me. The energy of it, and I love to dance and whatnot. So I did about 6 songs with Unruly Records, and there was a couple producers within their camp that I got the music from. And that was the same deal. I got the music, I just listened to it over and over again and ended up writing to them. And then now we also, because of, just doing so much online promotion for myself, have, come across all these sites, SoundClick and stuff like that have, you can purchase beats from someone across the country and, listen to it, and it's fairly inexpensive to lease them. So we've gotten quite a few beats. My most recent one, Hasta Abajo, is from reggaebeats.com, or reggaetonbeats.com. and we purchased it from a guy in Brooklyn. So, you know, we are doing that here and there, and Joey's always online listening to beats and sending me beats, and, you know, do you like this one? Should we get it or not? But I'm still working a lot with local producers. And even now, you know, I'm hoping the plan will be Cynic Lethal is someone that I really want to do this with, and just, you know, work with him while he's constructing the beats, because I have some sound healing things that I've been getting into, and I want to incorporate certain sounds and certain things into it. So that's the next phase. My ultimate goal being that I would work with a team of live musicians for everything. I did that before. I had a band for about a year, and I had a band for my first CD release party. I had them, they played all of my beats, all my music, and that's the best. Like, that's, you know, by far the most rewarding and fun collaborative experience. But unfortunately, you know, it's like I can't ask a bunch of musicians to get together for free. You know, you got to build a band, and that's so difficult. I tried it, but I have so much. Yeah, it's like a family. It really is. And I like joined the family after the family had been together forever, and the divorce was like imminent, you know, sort of thing. And like I was trying to like patch it up, like the, you know, redheaded. It was but it was an amazing experience.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Is that it? All right. Well, thank you very much for being here. I have one more thing. My new tradition is I would like to give some of my guests. There you go.
Thanks.
And so Mikey and Big Bob were very appreciative of those last time. So thanks everybody for coming. So let's hang out and chat for a little bit. And
yeah, thank you all very much for listening.
Yeah. All right.